Good morning, David.
Good morning, Randy. So, coming to you live here this morning with Randy Fernando, the president and CEO of Property IQ and R&D. So, this is our second live broadcast. So, we welcome all of our repeat listeners and any new clients that we have today. So, with that
Welcome.
being said, I would like to dive right in and because we have several questions for Mr. Fernando today. But number one, I'm just going to start right off. So, Randy, I know that you've got quite an extensive background in default and foreclosure and all of those types of situations. So, what I'd like to do is, since I know who you are and your background, I'd like you to give us a short little background on who you are.
Well, thank you, David. That's a pretty long introduction, but to be speaking humbly, Property IQ was born, give or take. It's already been going on 7 years now. We're a very custom company, and we're catering to a lot of the settlement services, from loan servicing to hard money lenders to just title intelligence requirements for due diligence. So, in short, basically, we're a title company without that word insurance. We provide all the title services. Um, that doesn't require a whole lot of underwriting when it comes down to reporting. So, it's really a reporting format. Most of the loan servicers, investors want to know their position, lien position, before they can move forward with an action or move forward to execute any type of pre foreclosure process. So, Property IQ filled a niche market that can help a lot of the industry investors, loan servicers, that can get from A to B or A to Z without having a lot of red tape. As you know, most title companies, David, won't issue just to report a loan unless they have a significant follow up, like a title policy. So that equates to a lot more costs associated with a lot of time, and most title companies shy away from that because there's no big money at the policy level if they're just going to be turned out. Or let's say it's a hard money lender, got multiple investors. It's really a challenging time for them because they're used to the everyday refi deals. So Property IQ found a niche market that fills the need there, that can do an efficient report on a national level. And then we've included some of the valuation needs as well. So it's not always going to be doom and gloom. A lot of the times we want to do workouts, as such as David's company with DDK. They're the rescue company. That's what I call them in short, because they're out there to help out the distressed homeowners, distressed areas where they're trying to qualify for a loan, having some trouble with it because of just downtime, whether it's COVID or whatever. Um, so even pre-COVID, we found a way to write these reports efficiently, effectively, and also for a fraction of the cost that most title companies would do them for. You could say from our company, you can certainly look at our website. It's piqnational.com. It gives you a broader range of some of the qualified services that we provide, and it's very short and sweet when it comes down to simplifying the process. You can actually look at some of the video content there. So that said, when you look at Property IQ, and it's what is the name Property IQ? It's what's your IQ? What's your intelligence? Or in the title industry, it's property in question. So that's where the name came from. We're excited to partner with many of the investors, as well as big and small, as well as the loan servicers. And we try to focus really on the needs of the market industry changing as well as it is. And into it's been a great market run as far as the refis go, but now we got to figure out how you're going to maintain these loans, make sure they don't get in trouble, make sure that all the due diligence is done. So there's title change searches, there's valuations, appraisals, BPOs for opinions of value. And then we also have added in the mix inspections. Sometimes you have properties that, especially with the ordinances and here in California, or could be in Texas, any other state, they don't want these properties to be abandoned and vacated, creating more liability and risk to the investors as well as the communities there. So these inspections are done periodically, sometimes biweekly, sometimes monthly. So that service is right up our alley as well. We help a lot of our clients with that so they can maintain a good standing, as well as the city, as well as the counties. So they're not getting in trouble or fined, because those fines can be very, very extensive. So that's in a nutshell it. We're happy to partner with many of the investors, as well as like David's company, that come through in the process. And if there's a foreclosure related matter, obviously that's the last stop. We have some very good resources between trustees and attorneys that partner with us that could execute that and take it all the way out to the REO sale out, as far as the post process. So that said, Property IQ is here, and we're here to cater those needs.
Randy, that's a great definition of your company and your background. So I thank you for that. I think one of the things it's more of a comment from me about my dealings with you in the past, and I think one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is that a lot of times partnerships are partnerships come and go, but I think for all of our listeners was the fact that a hard money company and a default company are a very, very good match. And I think in the weeks in the podcast that we have coming in the next month or two, it's going to be interesting to be able to convey to our audience more of how they can use our companies and why our companies are around and why they were founded, so that as the market continues to turn and we get out of this and we get out of what I call the COVID recovery. Nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know what the market's going to look like. We don't know exactly what it's going to do. I think it's fair to say that we have a pretty good idea, but as we all go through it together, I think it's going to be more and more important that investors and brokers and loan servicers know, why PIQ, why DDK, how can they benefit their business and their operations? Private investors that are investing in these loans, these hard money loans, why PIQ? Well, when default happens, it's about what you do. What is that first course of action that you're going to take? And that's what I want our listeners to understand and have a full grasp of PIQ and why they need to use both of our companies and why we're here. But what I want to target is our listeners that may not know us as a lot of our other listeners or friends in the business do. So, those are the people that I want to target and get our message out to let them know as the market turns that they've got two companies here that are in their corner to help them get through it.
Well, that's a part of why I think it's important to, I guess, complement each other. I mean, it's a tough market. As we look at it, we call it a tough market because we see the writing on the wall. As it turns into the end of the quarter, as we come into this last quarter, recovery from the pandemic is definitely happening as we speak, between new businesses opening up again and areas that are, in that industry, just like restaurant business, hospitality business. But on the other hand of that is the ones that the repercussions are going to be for years to come.
Yeah.
And what we do is to offer solutions. I think it's important to realize that we don't want to just call it distressed asset. We call it part of our loss mitigation package. What's the loss mitigation? Loss mitigation, and we can talk on that terminology a little bit further on, but it's really looking at solutions, looking at alternatives to foreclosure process. What are those alternatives? It could be,
Right.
a rescue loan, it could be a patch loan, it could be a bridge loan, it could be something to carry them over. But with that comes, the tools, the resources would be an alternative funding process. Property IQ stands out as a company that does the intelligence part of the services. So you got to have a complement to each other. So if you're doing just a rescue loan or you're doing something that I don't want to minimize it, it's significant. And we're going to be talking in podcasts to come and more of these videos, what that entails. But today it's more of a getting to know who we are, the players are, and the experiences that we've had working together in the past, and what the benefit is to the general public, what the benefit is to the consumers, and how we can make this a positive response with a resource, not left holding the bag. With the more terms in place, I think it's creating, in my opinion, you're postponing the inevitable. You don't want it to get from bad to worse. You don't want to throwing a little band-aid in a huge well or dam, if you would, that's going to
Right.
pop right open. So what is that? I mean, it's going to be controlled environment, doing all the things that we have to do so we can head it off at the pass. So when you have all these services that combine together, that's more unique and more of a niche market than going to a credit rescue program. Going to, you see these commercials on TV, right, David, where we
Right.
can fix your credit. Well, why not start now before it gets to that level?
Right.
So anyway, there's a lot of conversations to be had about that. But right now, we're excited to just do a quick intro as to what is yet to come on these calls, special speakers that come in, subject matter speakers. It's going to be more and more intuitive. And obviously, we welcome everybody's feedback, questions you may have, and how it's going to take. At the end of the day, time is ticking. So we want to just have some type of little bit of relief to know that help is on the way.
Which is important. When these things present themselves, it's natural to be fearful, right? If you're an investor, you're fearful of losing your money. If you're a homeowner, you're fearful of losing your property. There's fear everywhere. But I think the more prepared that we can let people know that we're here to help, that'll take some of that fear away. And it's not just writing loans. It's about servicing loans and maintaining loans through the life of the loan as well. And I think that's the message that I want to convey, and let people know that just because a loan goes in default doesn't mean it still can't have a happy ending or a safe landing versus a plane crash.
Yeah. On that note, I know, David, you work with a lot of these pool lenders as well. When I say pool lenders, I'm talking about these big commercial entities that are either buying or selling volume of
Mhm.
notes. When we say
Right.
that, it just means there's, hundreds of thousands of loans. How many of you out there were recently or refied in the last 6 months or even the last year? You got your loan, you got a very aggressive interest rate, and then you find out it's since been transferred 3 or 4 times to
Right.
different lenders. And you know what happens there? They're selling the loan.
Mhm.
And when they do that, at some point or another, they start trading these, or some of them are hedge funds and whatever. But at that point, they've already paid for a loan policy. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But you don't want to be just that number going, where do I go next? You get these notifications, everything is online, but there's no real experts that can help you with that level. So if you're a borrower, you're like, okay, I got 3 or 4 different assignments of change of the lenders. And then if you're an investor or a note holder, you've got all these loans that you just purchased, but you don't know what the disposition is.
We're seeing a lot of things we've never seen, and we're coming out of a historic pandemic. And it's important that the marketplace knows our companies, who we are, and what we do, so that when these things happen, that they'll know that they have friends that they can reach out to.
It's kind of a global matter. So when you're dealing with it from a lender's perspective, you've got this huge list of loans and you need to get that intelligence done quickly. You want to have a resource to go to. You want to be able to say, out of these 1,000 loans that we've got here, we want to make sure that the consumer gets a fair chance. And if they're just looking at just lates, or a percentage that's non-performing, they lose that focus as to where to go to get that intelligence.
Right.
So then, you look at it and go, okay, wait a minute, out of these, maybe 10% are having some trouble. Where do they go? Right now, there's help. There's hope out there for those types of situations. We want to prepare ourselves as well as our companies, and just get the word out there so people are more educated on this stuff before it happens and before it's too late. All those needs, and with more to come, we're going to be talking about where we're headed into the last quarter and what's coming up for 2022, and where you need to be. So with that said, Property IQ and DDK, we're excited to offer these additional services to help those needs, fill those needs, and with more to come.